This presentation evaluates the Google Foundation of Digital Marketing and E-commerce certificate offered through Coursera. I chose this program because marketing is one of the biggest gaps in my business, especially when it comes to getting in front of the right people and generating leads. I can design cabinets, manage projects, and work with clients, but building consistent visibility and bringing in new business is where I need to improve. So this course connects directly to a real need in my business and something I'm actively working on. In this presentation, I will go over how the program is structured, the frameworks used to evaluate it, the strengths and weaknesses of the course, and recommendations for improvement. I will end with the summary that connects everything back to my work and what I am taking from this experience. To begin with, I want to give a clear overview of how the program is structured. This program is a self-paced certificate offered through Coursera and focuses on digital marketing and e-commerce. The content is broken into short modules that cover topics like search engine optimization, email marketing, social media, and analytics. Each section focuses on a specific topic and builds on the one before it, so there is a clear order of how the information is presented. The course is mainly video-based, followed by short quizzes and check understanding at the end of each section. There are also some chat interactions included, but they are limited and not a major part of how the course works. One thing I noticed right away is that the program is very easy to follow. Everything is clearly laid out, and you can go at your own pace without feeling lost or unsure of what to do next. That made it easy to stay consistent and finish the course, especially with everything else going on at work and at home. At the same time, most of the learning comes from watching and understanding instead of doing. For a topic like marketing, that feels like a limitation because it is something you learn best by trying it and making decisions. So while the structure works well, it also creates a gap that shows up later in evaluation. To look at that more closely, I use two frameworks. To evaluate this program, I use Community of Inquiry and Quality Matters. The Community of Inquiry looks at how learning happens through teaching presence, social presence, and cognitive presence. Teaching presence focuses on how the course is designed and guided. Social presence looks at interaction between learners and sense of connection. Cognitive presence focuses on how well learners are able to understand and apply what they are learning. Quality Matters focuses on course design. It looks at how clearly the course is organized, how well the content aligns with the learning goals, and how easy it is to follow. I chose these frameworks because they look at both sides of online learning. One focuses on the learning experience, and the other focuses on how the course is built. Using both made it easy to see what is working and what is missing. With that in place, I want to start with what the program does well. One of the biggest strengths of this program is how it is organized. Each section is broken into short videos followed by a quiz, so you always know what comes next. For example, in the email marketing section, it walks through building a list, writing emails, and using and understanding performance instead of jumping around between topics. That makes it easier to stay consistent and keep going without getting overwhelmed. The content is also easy to understand. It explains things in a way that makes sense, even if you do not have a strong background in marketing. It also focuses on things that businesses are already using, which makes the information feel useful instead of in theory. In my business, I have to train people the same way. If I try to explain everything at once, they get overwhelmed and start guessing. But if I break it into steps, like layout first, then cabinet selection, then ordering, they can follow it and complete the work. That is what this course does well. It keeps things structured so you can stay on track. But even with that, something is missing, because understanding the steps is not the same as using them. One of the biggest gaps in this program is a lack of interaction. There is very little opportunity to engage with other learners or have meaningful discussions. This limits how much you can learn from different perspectives or see how others are applying the same ideas. Another issue is a lack of hands-on work. Most of the learning comes from watching videos and answering quizzes instead of applying the concepts in a real way. This creates a more passive learning experience. You understand the information, but you are not consistently using it. Over time, that makes it harder to remember and harder to apply outside of the course. It starts to feel like you are completing the course instead of learning how to use the skills. These gaps do not make the course ineffective, but they do limit how deep the learning can go. To better understand that, I connected these issues to the evaluation frameworks. Looking at this through community of inquiry, the biggest gap is in social presence. There is very little interaction, which limits discussion, feedback, and shared learning. There is also a gap in cognitive presence. While the content is clear, there are not enough opportunities to apply what is being learned in a deeper way. From a quality matters perspective, the course is strong in organization and clarity, but it is weaker in alignment between learning and application. Learners are introduced to concepts, but they are not required to use them in realistic situations. This creates a gap between understanding and doing. That gap affects how confident someone feels using these skills outside of the course. Based on this, there are some clear improvements that could make the course stronger. One improvement would be to add more interaction, such as discussion boards or guided conversations. This would allow learners to share ideas and see how others are applying the same concepts. Another improvement would be adding more hands-on activities. Giving learners the chance to apply what they are learning would help them understand it at a deeper level. The course could also include a more real-world scenario where learners make decisions based on what they have learned. That would make the content feel more practical and easier to connect to real situations. Adding more feedback throughout the course would also help learners understand what they are doing well and where they need to improve. All of these changes would help move the learning from understanding into real use. That leads directly into the final takeaway. When I look at this program overall, it does a good job organizing information and making it easy to follow. The structure helps learners stay consistent and complete the course. Using community of inquiry and community matters made it clear that the course is strong in design but weaker in interaction and application. Most of the learning stays at the understanding level instead of moving into doing. Because of that, the recommendations focus on adding interaction, hands-on work, and real-world scenarios. The biggest takeaway for me is that the structure helps you get through a course, but application is what makes the learning stick. So that is where the difference is. Knowing something and being able to do it are two completely different things. That is something I see clearly in my own business. I can explain the process, but until someone actually does it, works through it, and makes mistakes, it does not become a real skill. That is what turns information into something you can use. And that is something I will carry into how I train and how I continue learning.